Tēnā koe, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou katoa. I'm Helen Gibbs. I'm the dietitian and director of Diet Consulting. I work with Southern Weight Loss with Mark Grant, who is the bariatric surgeon, and Natalie Robs, who is our psychologist. We do weight loss surgery based out of Dunedin, out of the Mercy Hospital, and have been a team with Mark and myself for over 2 years, and with Natalie in the last year. I have 25 years of experience of working with people in weight loss surgery, and it's probably one of the things I enjoy most about my job. So today's presentation is about the whole idea of how we go about using MyFitnessPal, in other words, a free software, initially to start understanding where protein is in our diet. Now, why would I want you to know where protein is in your diet? Quite simply, protein is the one nutrient we can't get from any other way other than through our food. And when we have got our stomachs down to a quarter cup volume and we are eating 5 to 6 times a day, we need to focus on getting the protein in so our hair stays nice and our skin stays good, and that we also maintain a good muscle mass so that we can be fit and well after our surgery. So the reason when I see people, the thing that I'm most often saying to people is I want you to start eating 5 or 6 times a day. Really difficult for many people because they are used to going for long periods of time without eating. Second thing that I ask people to do is work out where the protein is, and this is where we're going to use this tool. So goals gives us where we want to be working in to set our protein intake. Now, I will be doing a calculation of your protein intake when you first come and see me. What am I doing it based on? I'm basing it on your adjusted ideal body weight, which is a mathematical formula that looks at your current weight, your weight at a BMI of 25, and looks at approximately quarter of that weight being muscle mass. So instead of your ideal body weight being a BMI of 25, it might be considerably higher depending on how much weight you have. So the illustration I like to use is if I was starting at 100 kilograms of body weight and I needed to have a protein prescription, I'd be getting 75 grams a day. If I was starting at 140 kilograms of body weight, then my protein prescription would be about 90 a day. So it's actually very much individualized to the weight that you're starting at. So we're going to go into the nutrition goals and we're going to edit. And so what I thought would be useful is for us to set that goal for the 75 grams of protein per day. So I've done a little mathematical formula around this, and so this is looking at kilocalories, and the reason I've put calories is most people are still fluent in calories, even though kilojoule is the standard practice in New Zealand. With protein, we're looking at 20% of energy from protein, we're looking at 30% from fat, we're looking at 50% from carbs. Now, I'm actually not worried if you don't meet those other targets. If you don't meet the calories, if you don't meet the fat, if you don't meet the carbohydrate, what I want you to be doing is focusing on where the protein is in your diet. So if we're going to do a 75 grams per day, it's 1,500 calories. If I change my goal at 1,500 calories with 20% protein, 30% fat, 50% carb, I will get that 75 gram protein target. So let's show this. So if I type in 1,500 here, and we're going to go to there. So I'm going to use an example using yesterday's diary initially. It's useful to see the 3 different ways you're most likely to be picking up your food choices. So first of all, if you've used this before, you will have a list of foods that you eat quite regularly. And this can be really, really useful because actually you can just go and select them. So in this instance, you've got quite a range of foods you can see that I am using. Whereas, if it's a first-time user, you won't have this whole list. So that's one way. And so say, for example, I decided that I was going to put in some breakfast. So I was going to put 2 Sanitarium Weet-Bix. I was going to put a very small serving of Cluster Crisp, which I really like, as an option. And I was going to put my yogurt, Easy Yo yogurt, but in fact, I probably have closer to 150 grams at that time. So you can do that. And I have got coffee, very important coffee. And I've got some milk with my coffee. I'm going to add the check. Great. So I've now got that, and that breakfast, if we look at it, is giving 18 grams of protein. Now, of 75 grams of protein, if I spread that across 5 meals a day, it is going to be 15 grams per meal. If I spread it across 6 meals a day, it's going to be about 13. Now, this has given me 18, which is actually a really good protein serve, but I would not have the stomach volume after the surgery. So while we're getting used to it before we have the surgery, it's absolutely fine that the volume is bigger. But what the next step, once you know where the protein is to think, how can I have this in a more concentrated amount? If we think about that quarter cup measure, which is actually a really small measure, and I would really recommend you actually pause now and go and get a quarter cup measure from the kitchen. If you haven't got a quarter cup measure, one of the things is to get an Ark Rock cup. Those are those clear glass cups, and it's a quarter of the volume of that. So that's one way of getting it. We can check from our previous things. There's a second way of doing it, and this is what I'm going to demonstrate next. So I'm going to make up a lunch that I might reasonably eat. So I'm going to bagel, and I'm going to see if Beam Me Up Bagels has got it. I don't think they have, but we'll try it. And then I'm just going to put NZ. And I've searched. Okay, no, sadly we don't have it. It's actually one of my favorite bagels, okay? So I'm just going to see if there's anything else that I'd be happy to use. I'm going to use Pam's plain bagels. I suspect that the bagels are slightly bigger. If I was really going to be organized about it, I would probably go, right, let's go and find another bagel. So if it's a 90-gram bagel here, I am going to suggest that instead what I do is I say it's a 110-gram bagel. So I've just said 1 gram, 110 grams, add to my food diary. Okay, and so what am I going to have on my bagel? Well, I'm thinking about what I might have if I went out with a friend, okay? So I'm going to find some Philadelphia cream cheese. And again, I am always putting New Zealand at the end because we want to actually, where possible, choose New Zealand-based foods. Why is this? Because there are actually sometimes quite big differences between country foods, particularly with these processed things. So I am going to put some cream cheese, and it says 2 tablespoons. I'm going to be honest about it, it's probably actually a bit more on I'm going to say it's probably close to 4 tablespoons by the time the lovely people at my favorite bagel shop will push it on, okay? So then I'm going to add another food, and we're going to have some smoked salmon because I'm being posh today. So smoked salmon, and again, I'm putting that New Zealand in at the end. And I think we'll just do a generic one, and 50 grams, that's probably about what's on it, okay? Now there's a few flossy bits, but I'm not going to worry about it. So if we look at this, I've just put in this, and in terms of the protein in it, it's actually a pretty good protein store. It may surprise you as you look down it that 50 grams of smoked salmon actually provides less of the protein than the bagel does. Now, when you've had weight loss surgery, that protein from that salmon might be a really useful thing, but we'll have to find another way of adding extra protein. And this is a lot of time we spend talking about this post-surgery. So the other way that you can end up adding a food is if you have done your typical recipes, and this is another exercise I ask you, I say, what do you eat as a family? Put the recipes in, and they do not have to be perfect. They just have to be good enough. And we go and we put it into recipes. And so I'm going to use one that I was doing with a young woman, actually not a weight loss surgery patient, so it's a really good illustration. And this is an empanada. So we put in the ingredients. We did a little bit of tidying up of the ingredients, finding New Zealand specific ones so we could do the values. And you can look here and you can look all the way down and it tells you about the protein per serve and things like that. So we're going to go back a step. And we are going to log it. And we're going to put it in one whole serving, and we're going to have it. Yesterday was where we were putting it in, and we'll select it into dinner. Okay, log it. Awesome. And I'm actually just going to add a food, and we'll add another recipe one. So once you've done your recipes, they get listed like this. And if you scroll down to the bottom, you can look all the way through and go, oh, what other recipes have I got here? And going a bit further through. And I'm just going to put my coleslaw, which is in my family a nice famous thing. And again, adding the checked. So let's do an overview of what has happened on this one. Okay, so if I only ate these foods, I would have undershot my calories. That's great. Not worrying either way. I'm still 10 grams short on my protein. So we're just going to put in another thing so I can demonstrate how we get up to the protein. The fat is more or less level, a little bit of carbohydrate, a little bit of sugar left, not much fiber. So that's actually giving me a clue of something I want to put in. So I'm going to add food. That's mixed NZ. So I am going to do good old Alison's pantry and a 25 gram serving. I'm actually going to make it a 30 gram serving because most of the time I'm talking to people about 30 gram servings of nuts. And interestingly enough, who's ever recorded it in has not put the fiber in, which doesn't really surprise me all that much. I'm going to also add in a small amount of cheese, okay? So cheese, and again, by putting NZ, we're getting New Zealand options. And so I am going to give a 26 gram serving of cheese. So again, I'm going to look at this. Yes, I've gone over on the calories, not by much, but again, we're not tracking the calories, but often people are quite obsessed by this and going, oh, is that too far over? It's not. The second thing is we've now actually topped the protein intake, which I'm really pleased at. And yes, we've gone a little bit high on the fat, but again, when we're doing this post-surgery, because the volume is so small, we're going to have to choose things correctly to make sure that we understand where the protein is. So that's how I do it. Once you've done this, you've got an idea about it, you've started putting those recipes in, you've started getting the ideas, you're going to have some pretty good ideas on where things go. At that point, then we get back together again and we start thinking, how am I going to, with my typical eating pattern, get enough of that nutrition in, that protein in those really small volumes, but to have it enough like the food that you're familiar with so that you're not feeling like it's a complete change of diet. I hope you found this helpful. If you have, please feel free to share it on to other people. I do not mind if people who have never seen me get to use this. What I think is really important to understand is that if you have had weight loss surgery with any New Zealand surgeon and you haven't had enough dietetic input, I'm very happy to see you as part of your weight loss journey. If you are 3, 5, 7, 9, 12 years post-surgery, and perhaps you put on some weight and you're really thinking, oh, I couldn't get back to that old habits, it's possible that you can actually improve your eating even then. And in fact, in many ways, I enjoy that bit of it as much as I enjoy the early surgical place, because often I can say to people, hey, you've actually done a really good job. You have been a success. Let's look at your nutrition status. Hey, we might need to change those multivitamins and minerals. What goals are we going to set to get you healthy? So please get in touch. You'll see at the end, I'll have a screen up with my contact details. Otherwise, like, share. I'm hoping to do more of these as part of my work. Ka kite anō, e noho rā.